Vi kører. Og vi kører. Okay. So, Chris Jordan, some of the melodies were originally created for another play. How is it possible to transform them into something which is useful for Out of Control?
Yeah, it's based on slight misconception. It wasn't another play in the sense that it was another show that existed out of this context. I invented or suggested an idea to OEM for a show that was based on some people who got together on the internet to be politically active together.
Yeah.
And that coincided with an idea that Anders Nyborg, the director, had, which was to do a show generally about the internet and specifically about musicians working together. And those two ideas came together. So some of the songs have been adapted from a story which was slightly different, but the general theme of internet and how it works was common to both ideas.
So you haven't transformed the melodies, but maybe only the lyrics? Or?
Yeah, I've changed some of the lyrics.
Yeah. Okay.
And the melodies develop as you go along anyway. You improve them or change them, cut them or cut them down.
Tell us about how you work. I mean, this is an assignment. Basically, it means that there's very little creative room because you can't write songs about flowers when you're supposed to write songs about the internet. How does that affect your process?
Well, I mean, I can only say that I've actually been doing this job for many years, so I am fairly used to having to write about things which you don't normally hear about in love songs or pop songs or even classical music. Is not particularly adept at dealing with certain issues, but I mean, in this case, it's only exaggerated by the fact that the technology is not something that easily fits into lyrics, which usually are much better at simple love ideas or flower ideas. But it's just, I think I can now say that I can write a song about practically everything. It won't necessarily be a good song.
No, but
or even an understandable song.
So how's the process? I mean, if one of the songs is about open source as a term, and it deals with that, how do you get into writing the lyrics for that?
Well, one of the things I was always looking to do was not just to talk about technology and issues, because that can be very dry. And in a sense, if you're going to do that, you're better off not singing it, because that's not the best way to communicate simple facts or opinions. So what I was always looking for was a way in which you could get some kind of emotional content out of it. And in a way, the open source thing is one where I found that if you linked it to an idea of freedom and openness generally, then you could make it sound almost like a kind of love song, even though it's about a technical aspect of how we use the net.
So you create this sort of meta layer of emotions.
I hope so. Yes, I hope so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How did you? No, let me ask another question. Let's just face it. You're not the net generation. You're not on Facebook or on Twitter. I guess you rather put a CD on than watch music on YouTube. What makes you able to write these songs about online services and the way they interact with us?
Well, first of all, I think that I do pay attention to what's going on. I try to. And I think you have to in order to find out that you don't want to be on Facebook, or you have to have a look and see how it works, or at least imagine how it works. And then you find out, well, that's useful, and another thing isn't. For example, it's not quite true that I'd rather not watch YouTube. If it's appropriate to watch YouTube, that's sometimes the quickest way of finding something, especially if you want to research something. Finding something it's quite often quicker done on the internet. But as far as the social networks are concerned, I mean, in a way, it's an aspect of my personality, a little bit like the character I play. And that's very much based on me, which is that I'm not a good social networker in the physical and literal sense. So I don't feel a lack of not being able to chat in chat rooms or not being able to talk to my friends on Facebook. I'm not a conversationalist anyway.
Yeah, but you've seen the technology come into our lives, our everyday lives, and how do you think it has affected us? And have your opinion affected the way you write the lyrics for these songs in the play?
Yeah, I think this is a difficult issue, I think, for all people of my age, or in fact of any age. As you get older, you have to decide whether, if you slightly feel yourself out of place in something, is it because you are literally out of place and that there's something you don't like about, and that you wouldn't have liked if you were young, or is it simply a function of old age? And that's always a dilemma for people in my generation, that it's easy to say, well, you know, kids don't interact socially in a physical way anymore. They're always on the net. But I'm sure if I was their age, I'd be doing exactly the same thing, and I wouldn't feel that there was any moral reason why I should behave in a different way. It's not a moral issue, really. It's just a thing about what you're used to.
Yeah.
And old people always have to try and do things that they're not used to sometimes, but then they also have to not look ridiculous by doing things that doesn't suit them at all.
So in the play, there is this song "Dependency," which is how we are dependent on the technology, and you describe it as crack cocaine. Is that how you see people being addicted to the net?
Not really, but well, I mean, I don't know of anybody who behaves like that, but I can just see generally that people, when they're bored on a train, will look at their phones. When they're bored at home, they'll look at their computers, and that's just different from reading a book. But maybe we had a more, at some time we had a larger range of activities in the physical sense. But of course, when you're on a computer, you can do a huge range of things, so you might as well try and do that. I don't know if that's addictive or not. I find myself addictive to certain aspects of it. But
we actually let you try one of these formats, the Twitter thing, where you wrote, not on Twitter, but in a Word document at least,
that was just these an idea, yeah.
140 characters of something, short stories. And how did that idea come to you, and how did it contribute?
I actually can't really remember, but we had quite a long process to put the show together, so everybody was trying to think of ideas of what we could use, what we could do, and this was just an idea I had that might have been a video thing or a voiceover thing, I just thought it would be funny to see how many different kinds of things, stories or shopping lists or notes or things that you could do with 140 characters. It was almost like a game. Well, we never used it in the end, so it didn't really.
Well, it's in the school material now, I can tell you.
Oh, okay, that's good. No, that's good. I'm glad it's found a home somewhere.
Yeah, did it bring something to you like I mean, obviously it didn't make you set up a Twitter account.
No.
But
No.
You didn't take anything with that into the play? Or?
No, I didn't. No. It was just one day's kind of homework, and then I forgot about it. So I can't really say it affected anything.
So one of the songs on the play too is "Holy Fools," and it is about this sort of idealists, which kind of, as it is said in the song, saves the day. How many of those do we find online today, or is there room for idealism in this?
I'm sure there is. Yeah, I'm sure there is. I think there's. I mean, some of the WikiLeaks, whatever you think about whether this should be revealed or that should be revealed, I think the whole notion of WikiLeaks is a good example of where people, whether misguidedly or not, think that it's a good idea to be open about information, and it's a way of being open which was not possible before, in the sense that everybody can access that information. And then when people try to close it down, then people get active on behalf of that organisation, even if they don't necessarily agree with what they're doing. they agree with their right to do it, and then you have the hacktivists, as they're called, and Anonymous, and all those people who've been very active, and I think that's a good example. And then you have people who are conscious of their moral responsibilities towards the internet, for example, in Wikipedia, where people spend a lot of time just correcting things that are and getting rid of vandalism that has been put there either by people with an interest in telling lies or just for fun. I think it's great. Of course, it's not. I guess it's a very small percentage of the people who use the internet. But the great thing about the internet is that a small percentage of people can amount to many, many, many people. Whereas in the days when you had to contact people physically in your village, you might find you were the only one with any politically active views.
So this sort of broad range of possibilities, does that open anything up to you as an artist?
Yeah. It gives me more. It gives me more places to go, to find out things, just to improve my knowledge of the world and to improve my access to things that I wouldn't necessarily go to a library to find. And also I think. And maybe this is one of the things which is addictive about it. Sometimes you find things by accident, and you have really, in order not to be addicted, you had to stop yourself from keeping on going to the next thing that is irrelevant to what you were originally looking for. Sometimes those are happy accidents, but I can imagine that it is possible to just keep going down the many paths without really ever coming to any conclusion.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.